Adored by radio but hated by critics, Collective Soul would be one of the most successful bands to emerge out of the mid to late 90s. I want to thank Trevor for suggesting this story. Funny enough, I know Trevor. I was walking through work one day and he came up to me and said, "Sid, when are you going to do Collective Soul?" And I said, "It'll be in October," and here we are in December. So this one's for you, Trevor. Enjoy. The band's history begins with the Rowland brothers, Ed, and his younger sibling, Dean. Growing up in Stockbridge, Georgia, an Atlanta suburb, their father was a Baptist preacher and the head of a local youth choir. They grew up in a pretty conservative household, only being allowed to listen to Christian hymns, Elvis, and Jerry Lee Lewis. Their father majored in music in college and even got involved in some record burnings too, before he became the head pastor of the biggest church in town. The boys' Sundays mostly revolved around, well, the church, going to sermons, and then returning in the evening for choir. They'd spend their Saturday nights with their mother, who played piano, and their father rehearsing hymns for the following day's service. Also a member of the choir would be future Collective Soul bassist Will Turpin. Ed Rowland would tell the LA Times about Stockbridge's music scene, revealing, and I quote, "It's a small place, only about 20,000 people. There's nowhere to play there, but it's close enough to Atlanta, which is a really cool place. The music scene is very diverse. There's the R&B scene, the indigo girls folk scene, and a rock scene. But being from Georgia, you might expect the Rowland brothers to be influenced by the likes of Molly Hatchet and Leonard Skinner, but they weren't. Ed would admit to Ear of Newt that his influences at least weren't Southern rock bands, but California rock, citing bands like Fleetwood Mac and the Eagles. He'd cite other influences as well, like Elton John. Both brothers soon got into guitar playing, and following high school, Ed actually moved out to Boston to attend the prestigious Berklee School of Music and study guitar. The experience was a complete culture shock for Ed. He got exposure to artists he had never previously heard of before, one of which was the Cars, and he credited jamming with professional musicians as making him a better guitar player and expanding his musical horizons. It was after 1 year he'd return home and he landed a job at a local 24-track recording studio called Reel to Reel. It was in the 1980s that Ed was playing in a band called the Eddie Band, who looked like any other new wave act, and they classified their sound as techno-pop. And funny enough, they even got featured on a made-for-TV movie that came out in 1985 called One Terrific Guy. But the band wouldn't end up going anywhere, so Ed grew his hair longer and started a new band called Marching Two-Step, with drummer Shane Evans and guitarist Ross Childress. The idea for Ed was to get a major recording contract, and it was a long time coming. He'd spent nearly a dozen years chasing that dream, playing clubs in the Southeast, and recording ideas, but nothing really seemed to get the attention of record labels. Marching Two-Step's time eventually came to an end, and Ed was about to give up on his dream of being a successful rock star. It was now January of '93, and the band's manager pushed Ed to at least try his hand at getting a publishing deal whereby he would write songs for other people or score film and television shows. He'd spend the next 3 to 4 months coming up with a demo tape, but keep in mind some of these songs were up to 5 years old. Rowland would toy around with his own musical ideas while he was off work in the recording studio late at night. Rowland soon had a demo, 90% of which he created himself. The demo would consist of about a dozen songs, and one of the last songs he wrote would be called Shine. Ed would remark how the song was considerably longer than anything else he wrote on the demo, and that demo would end up being Collective Soul's first album, Hints, Allegations, and Things Left Unsaid. He would end up sending the demo to a local college station, WRAS-FM, who were pretty supportive of local acts. Since Collective Soul didn't exist yet, he'd send in the demo under the moniker Brothers and Broads. Shine was soon played on a nightly countdown show on the college radio station, and the reaction was overwhelmingly positive. It soon became the most requested track on the station, and the radio even contacted Ed and asked if he wanted to play a few shows for the station. So he assembled the first lineup for Collective Soul, which was made up of his brother Dean on guitar, Ross Childress on guitar as well, old friend Will Turpin, and drummer Shane Evans. Everybody in the band already knew each other, having played in bands before, or they were in Cub Scouts, or they played baseball together. Calling themselves Collective Soul, the band's name would come from Ayn Rand's book, The Fountainhead. Rowland would tell the Spartanburg Herald-Journal, the main character in the novel refers to humanity as a collective soul. That struck me as being very correct. We are all a collective soul. Soon enough, other college stations and adult-oriented rock stations in the Southeast added Shine to their playlists. But strangely enough, record labels still weren't interested in Rowland's new project. His manager insisted that they now release the demo tape as an album, which they did in 1993. Titled Hints, Allegations, and Things Left Unsaid, it would be put out on a label named Rising Storm, and they started selling it in local stores around the Southeast. The success of the song Shine soon resulted in the album outselling some major label releases by multi-platinum acts. As for why the song connected with so many people, some chalked it up to its religious undertones, but Ed has his own theory, telling Ear of Newt in 1994, I don't know, we talk about it a lot, the band, and we think maybe it's psychological because it's uplifting or something. It's basically just asking for guidance, whether it be from above, below, friends, relationships. We don't know. If I knew, I'd write every song like that. If you guys saw my video on Hootie and the Blowfish, I talked about how back in the 90s, record labels had people who sat in rooms and all they did was call mom and pop record shops across America to see what was selling. That time, since independent releases didn't have barcodes, their sales didn't count as part of the SoundScan data. So this is how bands like Hootie and the Blowfish, as well as Collective Soul, got the attention of major record labels. Hootie and the Blowfish signed to Atlantic, as did Collective Soul. Collective Soul got signed the week before Super Bowl Sunday in 1994. Originally, Ed Roland wanted to re-record the group's first album, but Atlantic said no, basically telling him if it ain't broken, don't fix it. As to why Ed wanted to re-record it, he claimed that since he recorded 90% of the first album himself, it didn't have a band feeling to it, and he continually referred to it as a songwriter's demo in press for the album. Atlantic would reissue Collective Soul's first album in 1994, and Shine went to the #1 spot on the mainstream rock tracks chart. It spent 8 weeks on the chart, tying a record that was previously set by Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall. The record itself would go on to be double platinum, selling 2 million copies. Collective Soul's success seemed surprising given that they were the antithesis to what was really popular at the time, grunge and other alternative acts who sang about hopelessness, despair, and teen angst. Collective Soul's music, meanwhile, had a message of hope shrouded with spiritual terms. Given the band's success, the press wanted to put labels on the group and make musical comparisons, and even Entertainment Weekly famously described the band as bubblegum grunge, while others called them 60s rock all the way to southern blues rock. But Ed didn't want to be labeled, telling Spin, "People so badly want to label this band and I refuse to be labeled." Another thing frequently brought up during the band's early days was whether they were a Christian band or not. Ed would tell Spin, "I'm not going to deny I'm spiritual. We're not a Christian band." Collective Soul soon nabbed a huge touring opportunity in the summer of '94, touring with Aerosmith, and they played Woodstock's 25th anniversary. One interesting thing I came across about Collective Soul around 1994 is that they apparently signed a shoe deal with Converse. Collective Soul would return in 1995 with their second album, which was self-titled. According to the band themselves, they considered this record to be their actual debut album since it was written as a band. The song Gel would be the first song the band wrote and recorded together. The song was actually featured on the Jerky Boys movie soundtrack. The second record wasn't even done by the time Gel picked up steam on radio and MTV, but it was such a success that Atlantic Records moved up the release of their second album by 2 weeks. Collective Soul had 3 more hits on the album, including Where the River Flows, December, and The World I Know. The World I Know, which to this day is one of the band's most popular songs, would be born out of a trip to New York City that Ed took. He would tell Songfacts, "Especially around Times Square and Union Square back then, I literally walked out of the room, took a 2-hour walk around New York, and just absorbed and observed from the highs and the lows of what society was offering in the greatest city in the world." He added, "There were still homeless people living in cardboard boxes. Then somebody pulled up in a nice limousine with fur coats on and walked right by." Right before the band was set to record The World I Know, Roland recalled to Radio.com how he started to hate the song and almost rewrote the lyrics and melody, but was talked out of it by the album's engineer. Also on the record was another single named Smashing Young Man, a track which was a shot at Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins. Corgan had claimed that the hit song Shine was actually a ripoff of one of the Smashing Pumpkins tunes, and even allegedly filed a lawsuit against the band. But when frontman Ed Roland was able to produce a demo dating back to the late 80s, which predated the first release by the Smashing Pumpkins, the lawsuit fell apart. 1995 was a big year for Collective Soul. Their second album went triple platinum, selling 3 million copies, and spent a whopping year and a half on the Billboard album charts, and to top it off, the band opened for Van Halen on their Balance tour. Spin magazine would chalk up the band's success to the fact that they didn't really offend anyone. Another part of the band's success, which is often overlooked, was VH1, who prominently featured the group. Collective Soul's massive popularity was echoed by radio programmers as well. Spin magazine would interview the musical director at KISW in Seattle, who revealed the magic of this band is that because the audience doesn't get worn down with the hype, there's a certain mystery. I'm amazed at how long their songs last without people getting sick of them. They're a kind of band that can appeal to male or female, young or old. But despite the success, critics weren't kind to the group, as Collective Soul would be dogged by something that other popular rock bands at the time would deal with. I'm talking about Matchbox 20 and groups like Third Eye Blind. They would be dubbed faceless rock bands by the press. People knew the name of the bands, they knew the hits, but they couldn't pick the band members out of a lineup. As Collective Soul were on the road promoting their second record, they were hit with some bad news. Their former manager Bill Richardson hit them with a lawsuit over what Ed Roland claimed was, and I quote, a difference of opinion, without really elaborating. The legal problems resulted in the band not being paid royalties, and the members for a short period of time, despite selling millions of records and playing to sold-out audiences, had to temporarily move back in with their parents. It resulted in their third record, Discipline Breakdown, being recorded on a pasture in the middle of a farm on the cheap since they really couldn't afford studio time. They would use equipment Ed had already previously purchased. Some of the album's lyrics dealt with the legal turmoil that the band was going through at the time. The group's third record couldn't match the commercial success of their first two albums, but it still went platinum and produced a few successful singles in Listen and Precious Declaration, as well as Blame. Ed, however, would get some welcome news in 1997. Despite having a strict Christian upbringing, I'm not kidding you guys, in 1997, Playgirl voted Ed Roland as one of the 10 most sexiest rock stars. The band would return in 1999 with their album Dosage, and they would have another #1 hit with the song Heavy. By the way, did anyone play NHL 2001 back in the day? The record marked a stylistic change for the group, who went for a more slick pop rock sound using Pro Tools and loops. Collective Soul would have another platinum album. Hoping to capitalize on the band's continued success, they'd return the following year with their fifth record, Blender, which was their most pop-oriented album to date, but it proved to be their last for Atlantic Records, and it was their least successful album of their career up until this point. The band would soon part ways with Atlantic, blaming their label for not promoting the album. You have to remember that this was around the time in the music industry where there was a lot of mergers and personnel changes happening, as record labels were starting to adapt to declining record sales with the rise of internet piracy. Their future releases would be put out independently, with some being on their own label while others were on other independent labels. Collective Soul would return in 2004 with the album Youth, but it proved to be a tumultuous time for the group as drummer Shane Evans left the band shortly after the record's release due to substance abuse issues. The band would continue to release albums throughout the decade, but they'd be less successful than their 90s heyday. In 2009, Collective Soul would be inducted into the Georgia Music Hall of Fame, and Evans would join the band on stage for the celebration. In the 2010s, the band has continued to tour and release new albums, including 2015's See What You Started by Continuing, as well as 2019's Blood and 2022's Vibrating. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.